Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Minister of Education Curtis King has reaffirmed the government's commitment to providing financial support for students across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. However, he clarified that the government will not adopt a blanket policy to fully cover examination fees for all students sitting in the Caribbean Examination Council's exams. Speaking in Parliament in response to a question from opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday, Minister King was asked whether the government will consider implementing a policy similar to the one recently announced in Guyana, where CXC fees will be fully paid by the state for eligible students. Minister King stressed that the government's position on the issue is not driven by financial constraints. He stated that the administration's deep commitment to its ongoing education revolution ensures that all efforts will be made to secure the necessary resources to support students who need assistance.
Madam Speaker, we have given very serious consideration to this issue over the years. We have, in this period, during this period, gathered the information, analyzed the situation, applied our heart to wisdom, and formulated a common sense approach that has thus far met the needs of our students and other stakeholders. It does not involve the government paying fees for all students in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There are two components of this approach. The first involves several programs that support indigent and vulnerable students' academic journey. And the second is a program aimed at incentivizing excellence by rewarding all students who pass 5 or more subjects, including English and math, with a $500 cash award. The government, using this approach, has sponsored or paid the fees for 419 students at a cost of $124,970.25 over the last 3 years. It has paid out rewards of $2,241,000 to 4,522 students over the 5-year period 2020 to 2024.
Providing context, Minister King cited data from 2021, highlighting that the government paid over $576,000 in $500 student performance rewards. During that year, he also noted that there is no record of any student being denied financial assistance to pay CXC fees due to a lack of government resources.
Listen what I said. We did not say that there were none. What is important, we knew of them and we paid. So I'm saying there can be no argument that there are persons who needed support and did not get the support. And we have been doing that through our social assistance program located in the Ministry of National Mobilization. We have been doing that through the NLA, National Lotteries Authority. So that is why I'm saying, and I indicated earlier, that this approach that we have used has served us well thus far. Now, students in need of such financial support are usually reported to the authorities by the schools, the leadership of the schools, and I can speak from experience. I was there. Also, parents as well as guardians, and we also have persons from the community, significant others sometimes make such report. So as indicated, this approach has met the needs of the students who need financial support. Hence, we do not intend to adopt any new policy with regards to this issue. And in closing, Madam Speaker,
in his question, Dr. Friday referenced Guyana's recent policy shift, one that has gained attention across the region, where the government says it will pay all CXC exam fees for eligible students, while acknowledging the significance of the initiative, which he said can be attributed to Guyana's newfound wealth. Minister King indicated that it is not entirely new in the region. He pointed to Jamaica as an example, where the government has long covered the cost of up to 8 CXC subjects per student. However, he noted that this policy has faced scrutiny in recent years, with some sectors in Jamaica calling for it to be reassessed due to sustainability concerns.
Why? Because in many instances, persons are taking advantage, if you like, of the program. How? Because when they sign up for the 8 subjects, they decide after a while that, look, I only need to write 6. I only want to write 6 or 4 or 5. And then that money basically is lost, because CXC gives you a particular time by which you have to ask for a refund if you change your mind about writing the subjects. So the point I'm making, we have studied this thing, and we believe the common sense approach is the one that we have adopted. Where you have people in need, you meet those needs. You don't want to be giving Curtis King's son paying for his fees when Curtis King could afford the fees. But why should we? And it is better that we give an incentive so that the students perform well. So, as I indicated, we have no intention of shifting this policy. If it is not broken, don't fix it.
Rainforest Seafoods, which has been granted permission to construct a retail outlet on its compound in Calico, will source several types of local seafood, including snapper, lobster, tuna, and conch, for sale at the new facility. The initiative is expected to benefit hundreds of local fishers by providing a consistent and reliable market for their catch. In addition to locally sourced products, the outlet will sell imported seafood items and feature a farmers market component, creating a multifaceted retail experience. This was revealed by Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Soboto Caesar, during yesterday's session of Parliament in response to a question posed by Opposition Member of Parliament for West Kingston, Daniel Cummins, who inquired about the specific products Rainforest would offer at the facility. Minister Caesar explained that while Rainforest may import fish, these imports will be subject to the applicable duties and only permitted when the specific types of fish are not available locally.
We have a similar thing with chicken. We do not generally allow, it's an exception, persons to import whole chickens to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You could import the parts, but we have some protection for the local poultry producers. So it is anticipated whenever they are importing fish from any source market that quite naturally they have to come to the Ministry of Agriculture to get the import permit, and we will have a conversation there with them as it pertains to the sourcing and ensuring that we give the first right to the local fishers. The retail section of Rainforest will be selling, they'll be having a dry section, as they call it, where they'll be having a farmer's market, and they will be making available local produce, and 100 farmers are expected to benefit. Things like okra, tanya, edos, sea moss, carrots, yams, and soup packs, so that if you want to do a little one pot, as we call it sometimes, you go there, you could buy your fish, but you could also purchase your okra and some other ingredients that you want to place in the pot.
Responding to concerns about whether the new retail outlet would directly compete with the Calico Fish Market, Minister Caesar dismissed the notion, stating instead that the facility will complement the services already offered by the existing market at Calico.
Whatever competition there is, it's negligible. Fish landed in Calico now has a bigger market, or will have a bigger market on the completion of this facility to sell. The fisher folk can now sell fish at the market in Calico, and they could also sell their fish to Rainforest that will retail the fish. I want to underscore this point because from a culinary arts standpoint, not purely in agriculture, if you know that you can go and get fish every evening straight off the boat in Calico, persons will continue to go to Calico because the fish at Rainforest that is sold to Rainforest from the fisher folk, a lot of it will be stored fish. So there will be a market for both. I'm putting that in the context of the issue of the competition. Persons will continue to go to Calico to buy their fish, and some persons will choose to go to Rainforest.
Addressing further concerns about potential negative impacts on local fishers, Caesar reiterated that the ministry is fully committed to protecting those who depend on fishing for their livelihoods. On the issue of duty-free concessions, Minister Caesar clarified that no such concessions have been extended to the retail outlet component of Rainforest operation.
I want for the member to be aware that an application was not even made for any concession for the retail part of it, and it was indicated to Rainforest that they cannot just grandfather, and I'm not saying that they wanted to do this, but that was made clear. They can't just grandfather the concessions that were granted for the establishment of the original facility, the processing plant. But there's an issue that I want to address, because even though they have not applied, they are not prevented from applying. And if an application comes in for the provision of duty-free concessions, of course it will definitely have to be on different terms than the concessions which were granted for the large processing plant. That was $6 million or so, and this one is expected to be just $1 million.
The Fisheries Minister added that the government remains open to supporting other Vincentians interested in establishing similar retail fishing facilities and would consider granting concessions to those ventures. Rainforest Seafoods currently employs approximately 120 people during peak operations and is expected to add 5 more employees to staff the new retail outlet. In other local news now, we hear that over the past 10 years, exports from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the United States have averaged just 0.32% of the country's gross domestic product, the GDP, at market prices, a relatively small portion equivalent to roughly 1/3 of 1% of GDP. This was revealed by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves in Parliament on Monday in response to a question from the opposition member of Parliament for East Kingston, Dwight Fitzgerald Bramble. The MP had sought clarity in the government's position regarding the recently implemented 10% baseline tariff imposed by the United States on goods imported from all countries, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The opposition's question focused on how the new U.S. tariff policy might affect Vincentians and what steps the government plans to take to cushion any potential economic impact.
Exports, for instance, increased steadily from about $2 million in 2015 to $18.4 million in 2022, and then falling off to almost $11 million in 2023 and about half of that in 2024. The declines in 2023 and 2024 principally due to a reduction in the export of conch, lobster, and some other seafood, according to the stats. then so that purely, if you look only at the honorable member, at the 10% tariff on such a small value of goods, you're not going to find it having a direct impact across the economy, but it may well have in relation to the particular items which you're exporting, and the particular exporters may have a challenge. Maybe, maybe not, depending on the type of commodity. So,
in providing context, Prime Minister Gonzalez highlighted that the volume of imports from the United States is a more significant factor than exports in evaluating the tariff's potential impact. He pointed out that in 2024 alone, St. Vincent and the Grenadines imported approximately US $135 million worth of goods from the United States.
There is, and it is almost obscene for the richest, most powerful country in the world to say that they're disadvantaged and that they must be made advantaged by putting on tariffs on countries more than hitherto. Of course, persons who instinctively would jump to the defense of the United States. I jumped to the defense of the United States on certain matters, and others I'm critical, because we have to keep an independent position and a balanced position and a truthful position and look at our own interests. But tell me something, this 10% baseline, they just do it across the board. What effect that is going to have from St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the US? But look at what is happening here. No, the problems are going to be related to the increase of prices of commodities, which, whether they originate in the US or they pass through the US, they're going to have to pay these excessive tariffs. And that is where part of the problem comes from. Of course, there's a pause at the moment, and we don't know what's the final conclusion.
Dr. Gonzalez noted that one of the more immediate threats to the Vincentian economy would have been if tropical shipping, a major carrier of goods to the country, had been affected by U.S. tariffs targeting companies operating Chinese-built vessels. Fortunately, he said tropical shipping was exempt from those specific tariffs.
So could you imagine, they enter Miami, but they're coming down the road from Miami, and they stop also in, let's say, St. Thomas, to drop off something. There's another million. And those vessels are relatively small vessels. And the value of the goods which should be held there to accommodate that increase would have made things really, really difficult for us. It's going to be challenging if there is not a resolution as to the goods which passing through. The United States trade representatives have already said, don't ask us about exempting anything transit. Once it lands in America, the tariff had to be paid. Now it will take time to do an alternative, time and resources, to do an alternative transit point. Say, for instance, Miami. If goods coming from Mexico, they go through there. From Brazil, so we have a challenge there.
Another indirect effect of the U.S. tariffs, the Prime Minister warned, could be felt through increases in the price of goods within the U.S. itself, a development that may have ripple effects for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, particularly in the tourism sector. He said the government is closely monitoring the evolving situation and is prepared to act as needed to mitigate any adverse effects on Vincentians. Although St. Vincent and the Grenadines is not considered to be at the forefront of tsunami threats in the region, the country still needs to remain vigilant, and citizens must be properly informed and sensitized to the potential risk. This is according to geologist Leanka Henry, who made the remarks during an appearance on NBC Radio's face-to-face program today. She stressed the importance of public preparedness, noting that while the risk may be lower than in other areas, the possibility of a tsunami occurring in the region still exists.
A lot of discussions, a lot of questions online about whether or not we would get hit by a tsunami. And it still shows that people don't understand the science, basically, as to how tsunami is formed. And it's because of this lack of information, this lack of knowledge, it's important for people to sensitize themselves, and for us, NEMO, to sensitize them as to what a tsunami is. And it's a hazard that, although not frequent, it's something that we still live with. It's something that is still possible, right? So it's important for them to understand why or how a tsunami forms. And a tsunami basically happens, one of the main reasons is from like a big earthquake, more than magnitude 6, and these earthquakes that form tsunamis usually happen at subduction zones. And we actually have a subduction zone next to us. It's basically how Lassufre is formed. Lassufre is formed from subduction of the American plate under the Caribbean plate, right? So it's a hazard that's there. It's something that we still have to keep an eye out for, and we have to be able to know what to do in the case of.
Right.
Henry encouraged all citizens to stay informed, know the warning signs of a potential tsunami, and become familiar with evacuation routes and safety protocols.
Know the natural tsunami warning signs, which are if you feel a long, strong earthquake, and a strong earthquake is an earthquake where you basically cannot stand. It's a very, very big earthquake. If you see the water pull back from the shore, or if you see the water rushing in, some abnormal behavior with the seawater, then that could be another sign. And also if you hear the sea rumbling, then that could be another reason, another case where tsunami is coming. So these natural signs, we have to be able to we have to understand these signs, what these signs mean, and know how to respond. How do we respond in the case of a tsunami? We run to higher ground, we run far inland, right? Do not wait to see the water pull back and we go and catch fish. No, we're wasting precious time, right? So we have to be mindful of these little things, because it's an event where time is of the importance. You can't waste any time at all.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, could have a significant impact on the electricity and energy sector, enhancing both safety and operational efficiency. This is according to Zonia's Shallow Environmental Health and Safety Officer at the St. Vincent Electricity Services Limited, VINLEC, who was speaking at the opening ceremony of the company's 2025 Environmental Health and Safety Awareness Month. This year's observance is being held under the theme AI in Action, Transforming Safety, Protecting Lives. Shallow emphasized that AI has the potential to improve various aspects of VINLEC's operations, particularly in the areas of risk management, predictive maintenance, and monitoring of energy systems.
I want to focus on two real-world examples of how AI is making a significant impact in the electricity sector. So companies are using wearable personal protective equipment such as smart helmets and vests that are equipped with sensors that can monitor a worker's location, body temperature, and stress levels with built-in AI to prevent accidents. That's just awesome, right? These wearables can detect dangerous situations like high levels of heat, or if a worker is in a risky area, and they can send an alert to the supervisor. So just think about if you're working in a remote areas where we can't get access to you and you're out there by yourselves, but your supervisor will get the alert. There's also one of the largest utility companies in the US, Con Edison, who has implemented an AI-powered system to monitor its electrical grid for potential failures. This system was able to identify high-risk areas where faults were likely to occur due to factors like aging equipment, high loads, or environmental conditions such as extreme heat. Due to AI's predictive maintenance capabilities, that company was able to proactively prevent several major outages and avoid incidents that could have escalated into more serious failures, thereby saving the company millions of dollars.
Despite the potential of AI, Shallow reminded attendees that technology should not replace personal responsibility in regards to safety.
But as we embrace these technological advancements, let us not forget, true safety comes from vigilance, teamwork, and commitment. While AI can assist us, it is ultimately our awareness and decisions and values that form the foundation of a safe workplace. Safety also requires leadership, and I have to call out the leaders. Leaders, you need to come to the forefront. We need to feel your support and your commitment because you are the role models for us.
Meanwhile, General Secretary of the National Workers' Union, Noel Jackson, has cautioned that artificial intelligence could pose a threat to the workforce. He made remarks while addressing the opening ceremony of the VINLEX 2025 Environmental Health and Safety Awareness Month.
That AI can be a very important tool in advancing productivity, in advancing efficiency, in providing us with information and guidance that we may not ordinarily be able to obtain. But the other side of the coin is that AI can threaten jobs. AI, in a lot of instances, can replace you. And that ought not to happen. Because science and technology must be able to enhance and advance the lives of the human person.
Jackson acknowledged that AI was developed to make tasks easier and enhance efficiency, but warned that there are multiple dimensions to its implementation in the workplace that must be carefully considered.
AI can very well get into the stations and the machines that you are monitoring, the generators that you are monitoring, they will be able to do it. The line maintenance, AI, with a machine on a stick, may be able to read what you are incapable of reading ordinarily. And it can threaten the workforce. But it also can enhance the possibilities of the workforce. But we have got to be able to keep our eyes on the technology. And we have got to ensure that we educate our people in anticipation of the eventuality. And not only you here, but the people at school, because they have to come out to face and experience AI. And if they're not prepared, then obviously we are going to have problems.
VINLEX month-long awareness campaign features a series of workshops, training sessions, and public outreach initiatives. The campaign aims to promote workplace safety and environmental responsibility, while also highlighting the growing role of artificial intelligence in advancing health, safety, and environmental practices.